Hey guys, welcome back to Chapter 3 of An Affliction of the Heart. Last time, I guess Kuno tried to get some answers out of her quote-unquote guard that's just keeping her in his house for some weird reason. Anyways, this is Chapter 3. It's called Plans, apparently. Alright, last one was called Collared, because she just wanted a collar. Anyways, let's just hop right into it. Kuno stared glumly into the mirror, batting at her bell, watching the way it rocked back and forth, its negligible weight barely permeable. Still, she couldn't hear it. A collection of books lay scattered about her, left where she had thrown them when she was done reading them. Some of them she had even read twice, but already she was bored with that. She had always been a fast reader, and the collection of short stories had barely given her a few hours of amusement. It was amazing how slowly time could pass when one had nothing to do. Kuno had already tried to change her form once, and it had failed. The pain in her injured ears told her that they were nowhere near being fully healed yet, and that was a good sign, she felt. If her ears were still healing, then her hearing may yet return. The world was oddly bleak without noise. It was strange. She could still feel her heartbeat and her breathing, but they made no sound. The touch of a hoof at her shoulder made her jump, and she grit her teeth in surprise and dismay. She really needed to stop being snuck up on like that. Turning, she found Warden standing behind her. For the first time since she had arrived, he wasn't wearing his guard armor. Underneath the armor, he was actually rather handsome in a very unkempt way. His mane and tail were messy, and he had a rough look that was appealing without being too intimidating. He was all over white, and his blue mane was just the right hue to really make him look stunning. Well, you're admiring your captor now, aren't you? You little changeling. Kuno also noticed very quickly that his cutie mark was a tristle with vines growing up over it. Not the cutie mark one would expect from a royal guard. The changeling's mind began to work, pondering on this new piece of information. Why would a royal guard have a cutie mark that pertained to gardening of all things? Okay, that explains why he kept you. Just loves to see things grow, I guess, in a way. Slowly the pieces clicked together in Kuno's mind. Warden's unwillingness to harm her or see her harmed through his own actions, not a trait that the royal guard was exactly famous for. His garden, neat, tended, perfect. His stew, apparently home-cooked. That fact that he lived at the base of the mountain and not in the barracks. Then all the pieces neatly fit together in Kuno's mind. Warden was part of the reserve guard. Okay. The reserve guard was a contingent. What the fuck? The reserve guard was a contingent. I'm saying this so wrong. Contingent. Pretty sure I'm saying it right. It just sounds wrong to me. Contingent of the Royal Guard militia. Normal ponies trained in the arts of war to be called to service in times of emergency and martial law. Having changelings running free in the populace definitely counted as an emergency. So Warden, as part of the reserve guard, had been called to duty, but the Pegasus lacked the conviction to follow through with his orders, resulting in Kuno's current predicament. He couldn't let her roam free, but if he gave her up to the royal guard, she would be executed. Kuno was barely aware of Warden saying something to her, and she snapped back to reality with a blink. A piece of paper was thrust in front of her nose. Dinner time. Making sure the Warden could see, she nodded, and then offered him her throat. Without a pause, the Pegasus clipped the tether onto her collar, then locked it in place. A tug at the collar urged her to follow him, and she fell in behind the Pegasus. Ears played back on a frown on her muzzle. She didn't much like being led around like a mule or some kind of pack animal. It was demeaning. In the back of her mind, Kuno was pondering her next move. Warden wasn't a true royal guard. He was a weekend warrior, a part-time badass. Therefore, he would be more prone to mistakes, even though he hadn't made any glaring mistakes in her captivity so far. Once more, Kuno's tether was clipped to the iron ring and then locked into place by a second padlock. Examining the tether itself, she found that it was tightly wound nylon. It would take hours of work to fry a rope like that, not to mention a sharp surface. The smell of food broke her out of her train of thought, and the changeling turned towards the table, her stomach rumbling. A half a loaf of bread and a bowl of stew was placed in front of her, and she fell to it with a ravenous hunger. Her hot mouthfuls of bread and stew filled Kuno's mouth and belly, but didn't even sate her appetite. It was like drinking a cup of water while hunger gnawed at your stomach. It was something, but it made the hunger hurt. Are you okay? Kuno barely registered the words on the notepad in front of her face, and she groggily shook her head to try and clear it of a sudden gray fog. She didn't even recall falling to the floor or passing out or any of that. Warden was staring down at her, biting his bottom lip. Okay, so yeah. The changeling blinked heavily and then tried to push herself to her heels, wincing. Her body was refusing to listen to her, and she had barely the strength to rise. A powerful hoof under her form helped her up, and she staggered in place as her balance failed her. I'm fine, Kuno muttered, trying to push him away with the hoof. Her aim misjudged, sending her crashing into the floor again. This time she felt it. One of her already injured wings folded under her, and she gave a weak cry of pain, trying to squirm it free and straight again. Powerful hooves wrapped around her midsection as she squirmed against them futilely before just allowing them to do what they would to her. Her head was swimming with hunger pangs that no normal food could say, and each stab of need was like a knife in her side, being twisted and jerked side to side. Even breathing was beginning to hurt. Kuno couldn't help but wonder if this was what it felt like to die. The changeling barely registered the fact that she was being carried somewhere. The tether at her neck was unclipped, though her collar remained with the heavy weight of the padlock swinging from it. She was carried through into a room she didn't recognize and set down gently on a soft, warm bed with felt covers. Shifting feebly, Kuno tried to lift her head, only to have a hoof press her firmly back down. The hoof touched at her neck and her own hooves, as though searching for a pulse. But base of the ears, Kuno said thickly. Automatically, already a hazy grayness was seeping into her vision. The hoof removed to the base of her ears, where the chitin was soft and flexible, allowing her heartbeat to be permeable. I'm fine, Kuno murmured, trying to push herself to her heels weakly. She would not allow this pony to see her weak. She was strong. If she was going to die of hunger, she was going to die in a dignified fashion. But somewhere in the back of her mind, Kuno knew that this was only the start. The hunger would get worse from here on out. She had at least a week of agony left to live. You're not fine, a gruff voice said, as though from a great distance, as the hoof held her down all the more firmly, placed over her shoulder so she couldn't move. Ooh, she's getting her earring back. Damn it! Lost my place. Why you gotta do me like that? Just trying to freaking go to the... Okay, where am I now? Okay, okay, this is where I am. Alrighty there. The jingle of a bell, the muffled sounds of chitin on fur against the bedspread. Sounds flooded the changeling's mind. She could hear again. Everything was muted, as though there were a pane of thick glass between her and the noises, but she could hear. Kuno relaxed and getting limp and just laying there and splayed out on her side, wings in disarray, as the Pegasus checked her over. Goddess, why do you have to show up in that bloody field? Wait, what? Okay, I just got so confused. Goddess, why do you have to show up in that bloody field? The Pegasus growled, pulling back to stare at her. Lips pursed and eyes narrowed. Kuno didn't look at Warden, didn't give him any indication that she had heard his words. Instead, she focused on the rest of the room, peering at her surroundings without appearing to do so. It was a clean room, neat and tidy, with a few furnishings here and there. There was a bookshelf on one wall, a cupboard with an old spring-wound alarm clock, a potted flower of the yellow rarity, and a single photograph framed in silver. It showed a younger Warden and a yellow earth pony female. The two of them were smiling and looked happy. Warden caught her looking and snapped the photo face down with a scowl. Okay, what? Warden caught her looking and snapped the photo face down with a scowl, growling in the back of his throat. Just stay here, the pony said, waving a hoof in front of her nose to get her attention. When Kuno looked up at him, he mouthed the words "stay here" and pantomimed her remaining in place. Despite the gnawing pain in her stomach, Kuno had to resist the urge to giggle. The Pegasus moved back to the kitchen, leaving her alone. The muffled sounds of him moving were barely audible to her healing ears, but she knew she didn't have long. Casting her gaze about and racking her mind for what to do, Kuno used her dwindling strength to push herself to her hooves. A quick step and a short hop allowed her to grip the dresser and pull it down with her weight. The cupboard landed across her back as she fell under it, and she cried out in pain, whimpering and trying to crawl free. The alarm clock hit the floor and shattered loudly, sending cogs and springs scattering all over the place. The pot plant likewise shattered, showering the floor with clods of dirt and bits of broken pottery. One of the drawers half opened and an assortment of seed packets spilled out, adding to the mess. Several long moments the cupboard was sifted off of her, and powerful hooves once more lifted her from the floor. I'm fine, Kuno protested weakly, struggling and pushing at the Pegasus' chest feebly as best as she could. Once again, the changeling was deposited on the ground, and Warden scowled at her. Warden left again, and Kuno didn't move it this time. By the time he came back from the kitchen with a fresh bowl of stew, trying his best to spoon feed her, Kuno had already hidden the spring she had purloined. She held it tightly at the base of her wing, where the weight of her wing itself would keep it lodged in place, safe and sound until she needed it. The end. What are you trying to do? Like, first thing, he's not really a guard. Second thing, he's just trying to keep you alive, trying to make sure you're healthy and have like a nice life and all that. So why are you, why are you gonna be like, gotta dip? I don't want to stay here. Like, I know he's forcing you like right now, but like, if you didn't have anywhere else to go, because right now you're literally you just want to die, and I don't like that. It's only been like 3 chapters so far, and I want you to stay alive. Also, this relationship is supposed to, evolve into something romantic in the long run. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching and listening. Thank you guys do, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
100,000 stories have filled my head as I look for the answer in what I've read.